Hello. Today your attention is invited to the second lesson on the subject of chemistry. The theme of today's lesson is building blocks of matter. Let's start our lesson. To start, we briefly repeat the material of the previous lesson. The theme of the previous lesson was matter. Let's repeat the basic definitions. That of what physical bodies are composed is called matter. These physical bodies are the objects around us. But, from what for all that are specific objects, such as a ball, table, chair, or iron bolt, consists of. People have long guessed that they consist of separate tiny particles. The ancient Greeks came up with the name of these tiny particles. They called them atomos, which in translation means inseparable. Today we call these tiny particles atoms. In total, in nature, there are existing 92 types of atoms that differ from one another in their properties. In the overwhelming majority of cases, atoms do not exist singly, but unite into groups that are called molecules, and each separate kind of atoms has its own name and designation. For example, the atoms, of which the methane gas molecule composed of, are called hydrogen and carbon, and are denoted by capital Latin letters H and C, respectively. A sugar molecule also composed of hydrogen and carbon atoms, as well as oxygen atoms. The oxygen atom is denoted by the capital Latin letter O. Atoms and molecules are extremely small, in tiny particles of anything we can see. For example, in the smallest grain of sand, there are much more atoms than there are stars in the galaxy. Molecules are composed of atoms. Sometimes molecules are formed by atoms of the same type. In other cases molecules are formed by atoms of different types. Let's define the term molecule. A molecule is the smallest particle of a substance that determines its properties and is capable of independent existence. Let's take a piece of sugar. Sugar is a substance. Put the piece of sugar into the kitchen mixer and grind it till you will have got the smallest grains. Despite its insignificant size, each sugar grain will consist of a huge number of identical sugar molecules, and will retain all known properties of this substance, even if the substance is broken up into individual molecules, as it has happened when the sugar is dissolved in water. The substance continues to exist and exhibit its properties. This can be easily verified by trying the solution for taste. That is mean that a separately existing sugar molecule continues to be the same substance, called sugar, despite a very tiny amount of this substance. It should be noted that the molecules of different substances differ not only in the composition of their constituent atoms, but also in the number of atoms entering into their composition. There are molecules that are composed of a small number of atoms. For example, molecule of methane composed of only 4 atoms. But there are also molecules that are composed of a much larger number of atoms. For example, the molecule of already mentioned sugar, composed of 45 atoms of 3 different types. Let's depict the different types of atoms in the molecule of methane using circles of different colors. The black circle will a carbon atom. A white circle will represent a hydrogen atom. The red circle will represent the oxygen atom, which also is part of the sugar molecule. The methane molecule are composed of one atom of carbon and four atoms of hydrogen. Let us depict the molecule of methane by using of our colored circles. The methane is a flammable gas. However, if we replace 4 hydrogen atoms with 2 oxygen atoms, we would get a completely different substance, namely called carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is not flammable and does not support combustion. Now, let's remove the oxygen atoms from the carbon dioxide molecule and remain in it only one carbon atom. In this case, we will again get a new substance. For instance, clean, without impurities, charcoal consists of an amorphous form of carbon. See what happens if we replace atoms of one type in a molecule of some substance with atoms of another type. As a result, we get an absolutely new substance with absolutely different physical characteristics or chemical properties. Even if we simply change the number of atoms of the same type in a molecule, we again get an absolutely new substance. Substances are not eternal, because their molecules are not eternal. But atoms are practically eternal. In each of us, there are atoms that existed in times of dinosaurs, or the atoms that participated in the campaigns of Alexander the Great, or that participated in the voyage of Christopher Columbus in 1492. And what is even more interesting is that most of the atoms were born in the nuclei of stars. Well, by this moment, we have already learned a lot about the matter, and we can draw the following conclusions. Firstly, all substances are composed of tiny particles. There are 2 types of such tiny particles: atoms and molecules. Both the atoms and the molecules are the smallest particles, possessing the properties of substance, and are capable of independent existence. Secondly, molecules can be composed of one type of atoms, or different types. 92 different types of atoms exist at all. And so there are substances composed of atoms that do not combine into molecules, and there are substances composed of molecules. In its turn, there are molecules that are composed of atoms of one type, and molecules that are composed of atoms of different types. Now, let us define notion of an element. The substance composed of one type of atoms is called element. Elements composed only of atoms of one type that do not combine into molecules are called monoatomic elements. Prefix mono in Greek means one. Examples of monoatomic substances are metals such as gold, silver, zinc. Elements composed of atoms of one type that create chemical bonds between each other with formation of molecules, in other words, act like a single unit, are called diatomic elements. Prefix di in Greek means two. An example of diatomic substance is gaseous oxygen, where 2 atoms of oxygen are connected together. Now, let's define notion of a compound. Substances composed of two or more elements, linked by chemical bonds, are called compounds. Compounds usually have totally different properties to the elements that they are made from. For example, if we will take 6 molecules of hydrogen gas and 3 molecules of oxygen gas and force them to react with each other, we will get 6 molecules of water. So, the result of reaction of two gases is liquid water. Now, let's define notion of the mixture. Two or more different substances, elements or compounds, physically combined, are called mixture. In the mixture, we have different elements or compounds, not chemically combined together, so we can separate mixture by using physical techniques. For example, if you would take a glass of water and dissolve a spoonful of table salt in it, and after that, you would pour the water into a pan placed on the fire, then when all the water from the pan would be evaporated on the bottom of the pan, you would see the crystals of table salt. So, by using the physical method called evaporation, you can restore the table salt from the mixture of the table salt and the water. That is necessary to add a few words about the types of mixtures. The first type is homogeneous mixtures. Homogeneous mixtures are divided into two subtypes, solutions and colloids. Solutions contain particles too small to be seen. A good example of such kind of homogeneous mixture is a solution of table salt and water. The table salt consists of molecules that composed of sodium and chlorine atoms. Each molecule consists of one atom of sodium and one atom of chlorine. In water, table salt dissolves till the dissociation of salt molecules into individual chlorine and sodium atoms. And, of course, we cannot even think about distinguishing such tiny particles with the naked eyes. Colloids contain medium-sized particles that reflect incoming light. Examples of colloids are milk, smoke, fog, mayonnaise. The second type is heterogeneous mixtures. As a rule, heterogeneous mixtures are various kinds of suspensions. Suspension contains large particles that are large enough to be seen. For example, take a puddle on a country road. In the water of such puddle, grains of sand and particles of small debris are mixed and suspended, so the water in such puddle is dirty and opaque. It is time for us to summarize everything that has been said before. Also, we will add some more of useful information to what has been said before. But before it, let's remember the definition for term matter. Matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. Take, for example, a glass beaker. The glass beaker is a solid body since it has a constant shape, mass and volume, and also it occupies a certain place. The glass beaker is made of a substance called a silicon dioxide. The silicon dioxide is more broadly known as a glass. As things made from the glass have a mass and take up place, the glass is matter. Water is a liquid. Any quantity of water will not have a constant shape, but it will always have a constant volume, take up space and has mass. Thus, liquid substances are also matter. Helium is a gas. The gas has not a constant shape and a constant volume, but it takes up space and has mass. For example, we can weigh a balloon with helium. So, gases also are matter. And so, as we have already found out, there are solid, liquid and gaseous substances. Also, distinguish between pure substances and not pure substances. Pure substances have a constant composition, melting point, and boiling point. Not pure substances are a mixture of several physically mixed substances. Not pure substances do not have a constant melting point and boiling point. Examples of pure substances are clean, without impurities water, and table salt. The boiling point of pure water equals 100 degrees Celsius. An example of a not pure substance is a solution of table salt in water. The boiling point of such a mixture will depend on the amount of salt dissolved in the water. The more salt would be dissolved, the higher would be the boiling point of the mixture. In conclusion, let's draw a flow chart. Matter are divided into pure substances and not pure substances. Pure substances are divided into elements and compounds. Not pure substances are divided into homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures. Recapitulation. Atom. This is the smallest particle possessing the properties of an element. Element. This is a substance composed of one type of atom. Compound. This is a substance composed of two or more elements linked by chemical bonds. Molecule. This is a chemically bonded group of atoms that acts as a single unit. Mixture. This is two or more substances physically combined. Pure substance has a constant composition, melting point and boiling point. Not pure substance is a mixture of several physically mixed substances. Good job. Thank you very much for watching this lesson.